Welcome to the Oddity Shop, where the bizarre is always on sale.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. Welcome to the Oddity Shop, where the bizarre is always on sale. This is Zach, and I'm Kara, and today in the shop, Zach has...
I have the story. It's a cursed item for us, so it's the curse of none other than the Hope Diamond, which I honestly thought would be really, really boring. Okay, so on a class trip, I actually went to the Smithsonian. I saw the Hope Diamond in person, and was honestly super unimpressed.
What made you unimpressed?
I think my absolute love for the Titanic, right? So the heart of the ocean is 100% based off of the Hope Diamond. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And my Titanic obsession runs deep, right? But in the movie, it's such like a deep blue, and it's so big, and it's heart-shaped, and then just kind of a big pale blue rock with actual diamonds around it in a small display case.
Okay, I need to Google what it looks like.
And it's in a room by itself, too. Just in, like, one case. It's just, it's underwhelming at best.
Oh, yeah, I've definitely seen pictures of this. Okay.
But most people at least know of the Hope Diamond. It sits at the Smithsonian Natural Museum of History. And in all honesty, before I got into the research of this, I assumed most of its history had been in America, just because it's at the Smithsonian. This thing has traveled everywhere, though. Like, it has a varied history throughout hundreds of years. But apparently, not only has it changed hands many times, but it's cursed most of those who either owned or wore it throughout history. So, apparently it's got a little bit of a dark history. Let's kind of start with just background about the diamond. So, currently at the Smithsonian, the diamond is 45.52 carats, which is still like, it's a giant diamond. Like, this is probably one of the biggest diamonds on the planet.
I can't even fathom 45 carats.
Right, so a carat is 200 milligrams, and this is 45 and a half. So somebody better than me at math can change that, but it's a big rock, like...
Yeah.
Probably about like a 50-cent coin piece, right? Originally, when it was found, it was 115 carats. So it's actually been cut by different owners through history.
Oh.
Obviously, with something that big, right, the value in the $200 to $350 million range, it's been worn by pretty prominent figures and collectors and jewelers, and has taken just like a wild ride to end up in DC. The diamond itself, though, is actually not a brilliant white like most diamonds are. It's actually a pale blue color because of the gas boron being trapped inside of it, which makes it reflect blue. So there's like pink diamonds, there's chocolate diamonds. I guess there's all sorts of different colored diamonds. I've never researched a diamond in my life. I thought they were all white. Another odd thing about the Hope Diamond is that it will actually glow red.
Ew.
If exposed to ultraviolet light.
Is that normal?
No, it's not normal. I'm sure there's some scientific reason there. I just don't understand it.
That's creepy.
So the rock itself is also over 1 billion years old.
Okay. How many carats was this originally? 115?
115 carats.
Are you going to tell me who had this at 115?
Yep, we sure are.
Okay.
So, the diamond was found in the 17th century. Most speculate the year 1642-ish. And they think it was pulled from the Kolar mines in Guntur, India. Over the years, as it's been cut, it's actually been kind of called like a bunch of different names depending on who owned it, right? Some people think that, it was pulled from the mine and then it immediately got over to merchants who brought it over to Europe. But there's another story that a lot of people believe is that the diamond was actually set in a temple in a statue of the Hindu goddess Sita. So Sita is the goddess of beauty and devotion and is known for her dedication, self-sacrifice, courage, and purity. The diamond is set into the statue as the third eye. At some point, the stone is actually stolen from the statue, and the legend goes is that the temple priests in this temple where this stone resided were so angry that they actually laid a curse on whoever might possess the stone afterwards. Whether you believe in that legend or you kind of think it was just pulled from a mine, there's actually like a huge long chain of just terrible luck, misfortune, and tragedy among many of those who wore it. So today, I'm going to break down for you the top kind of 10 most interesting cursed people, I think, who had worn or owned or held the stone.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's way more than 10 out here, but we're going to start with the original owner. So, number 10, we got Jean-Baptiste Tavernier.
Ooh.
He's a French merchant. It's not really sure how the stone got into his hands, but we definitely know without a doubt that he owned the Hope Diamond and was one of the first recorded owners of the Hope Diamond. So it was traveling back and forth through India on merchant trade, and in 1666, we know that he at least receives the stone. Whether he's the one who stole it from the temple or just bought it on his travels, nobody can prove. Really creative. He names it the Tavernier Blue, probably due to its blue color. And at this time, it's estimated it weighs, like I said, 112 to 115 carats. Basically, really soon after he gets the Hope Diamond, or what we call the Hope Diamond today, he comes down with an absolutely terrible fever that just will not shake. Doesn't sound like a curse yet, though, just because, he's got a fever. He decides to turn it for a profit, so he goes to Louis XIV, the King of France at the time, sells the diamond, and basically dies pretty quickly after.
Okay. Do we know if he knows of this legend?
No, it's...
Okay.
Honestly, it's not really known, right? So he's the first owner, he's the first recorded person. He kind of thinks, though, that it has something to do with the stone, which makes me believe this is the guy who stole it, right? Like, why would you think that something you just bought is going to curse you? Or if you have a guilty conscience and then you get sick afterwards? It's a little telling.
Right. Like, I'm not going to buy a pair of sunglasses and then if I get a fever, think that the sunglasses did it to me.
Right. People are more convinced, though, because, like, pretty soon after he sells the diamond, he dies, and his body is just ravaged by hungry wolves. Like, immediately upon his death, the dude just gets eaten by wolves.
Okay.
And that is our original owner of the stone. All right, going down the line.
Crap.
Number nine. King Louis XIV, right? So it's only 2 years since Tavernier originally got the stone. The year is 1668. King Louis gets it, and his first order of business is to cut the diamond into a triangular shape, which took literally somehow 2 years to do. This man shaves off so much of the original stone that it now only weighs 69 carats.
Okay.
So he decides to give it a little fancier name. He calls it the Bleu de France, or the
other name.
The French blue.
Oh.
Yeah, people are looking at this thing and calling it the color that it is. It's not really creative, but...
It's not original.
Not very original. It's the 1600s, maybe not high in the creativity. So King Louis XIV, he decides he's going to start wearing this for ceremonial engagements. And, for most of the time that he wore it, he was fine. And this is one of the kind of contested, is this a curse or not, right? But none of his children actually make it past childhood, except for one. So his kids all just start dying really, really young.
How many did he have?
I should probably know that answer, but I just don't, right? But a couple of years later, he actually dies of gangrene.
Okay.
All right, so we're at 2 deaths now. Nothing is really, it could be curse, it could be legend.
Just coincidence.
Right. But the fact that things keep happening is what makes it really weird, right? We are now at number 8, and this gentleman's name is Nicolas Foucault. So Nicholas, he works for King Louis XIV. He only wore the diamond once for one special occasion.
So he borrowed this diamond for this special occasion?
Right.
Okay.
And months later, him and the king get into a giant fight. He's banished from France.
Oh.
And then the king decides to change his mind later and goes, instead of banishment, we're actually just going to put you in prison for the rest of your life.
Okay.
We're kind of 3 for 3 for just it's oddity still, right? But now we go into the next, King Louis XVI. So he inherits the diamond during his rule, which starts in 1774. So we're skipping some years. King Louis XV obviously owned it before the 16th, and nothing really happens to the 15th.
Okay.
But he actually took the diamond, placed it in an ornate piece of artwork called the Golden Fleece, and never once wore it.
Oh.
So then it comes down to Louis XVI, which most of us have heard the story of. So this is kind of a twofold one, right? So him and his wife, Marie Antoinette, love the freaking diamond. They, at least Louis XVI, wears it as much as he can. We don't have any proof that Marie Antoinette actually wore it, because none of the art or paintings depict it. But there's rumors that she would actually wear it quite a bit, right? So the curse actually catches up to them in the story that most of us know. But during the French Revolution in 1791, King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette try to flee from France while the French people are uprising and saying, yeah, we don't think we really want a king and queen anymore, and we're sick of your bullshit, basically, because they'd been living in squalor while royalty was just filthy rich.
Flashing their diamonds.
Well, 1793, both of them are executed by the French government that was newly put into place, and their heads are chopped off with a guillotine.
Okay.
So shortly after this, the diamond is stolen and we just lose track of it for a decent amount of time, right? So that was 1793. It shows up in kind of the teens in the early 1800s in England. Now, a lot of people are like, well, how do we know this is the same stone? Well, there's not a whole lot of like 70 karat blue diamonds rolling around out there, right? So it's pretty contested on how it got to diamond, but a lot of people are pretty sure that King George IV is the one who actually purchased it somewhere along the line, and he brings it to England. Kind of would make sense that he was the owner, because he was just an awful ruler. He was actually one of the most unpopular kings in all of the history of the UK. People legitimately hated this man and say, like, he discounted the name of the crown. So with all of his insane unpopularity, George IV becomes super unhealthy, a ridiculous alcoholic, beyond obese, and cataracts so bad that he is basically blind.
I'm sorry. Beyond obese plus cataracts and you're blind.
He's not a pretty picture, basically, at this point.
Holy crap.
Okay. So he dies while owning the diamond due to gastrointestinal bleeding, leaving the crown in just enormous debt. And it's rumored that the gem was then actually sold off through private channels after his death to repay some of these debts. So that's in 1817. So we now know for sure the diamond is in England. So like I said, kind of rumored if George actually owns it or not, but we know it's here. At this point, too, it's also noted in some catalogs that it only weighs 67 carats. So somehow between France now it loses another 2 carats.
That's so weird to me.
You know, everyone has their own taste in like the diamond and the cut and everything, but why, especially from the first, like the 115 down to...
Yeah, I don't get that.
I'm not sure why either, but we do know people kept cutting it up for some unknown reason. So one of the thoughts I had while doing this too, right, is if the stone itself is cursed, were the shards of the stone used for other pieces of jewelry?
So I was going to ask you that, but I didn't know if you were going to get to it. Like, are those all cursed too? Is everybody that has all the other pieces cursed?
Well, that's like my mindset. It would have to be. And I'm sure like from 115 to 60 whatever carats, right? Like there's sizable chunks out there that are used in other pieces for sure. We just don't really know. We do know the owners, though, after George IV, the confirmed owner is Henry Philip Hope, which is where we get the name the Hope Diamond, right? So this is when the diamond is pretty legitimately cataloged. So Henry Philip Hope, he's a rich London banker, and he is a huge collector of gemstones. Like I said, King George IV, it's unsure if he owned it, but this guy in his catalogs has a large blue diamond, and it's definitely the same rock, because this isn't cataloged anywhere else and we don't have any large blue diamonds. However, when he catalogs it, it's only 45.5 carats.
So we lost what? 20 something?
Another 20 something. So it's 115 down to 45. In the same year that he catalogs owning the diamond, Henry Philip Hope dies.
Oh my God.
So when he dies, his gem collection is left to 3 of his nephews and his wife, who fight over the collection for 10 years in court. Nobody can decide who should be the rightful owner of this thing. It is like super heated, right? So Henry Philip Hope's nephew, Henry Thomas Hope, kind of gets shafted because while everyone else splits all these other gems up, he gets one single gem. The Hope Diamond.
The Hope Diamond.
Right. Which was the largest of the whole collection, and he was pretty thrilled with it, right? So Adrian and Alexander, his other 2 cousins, they run off with all the other rocks, and poor Henry just gets the cursed stuff.
You know, this just goes to show you that when you die, I mean, just get rid of all your shit before you know you're going to die.
Right. That way you pick who gets cursed next. Luckily, though, Henry Thomas Hope is kind of unscathed through it all, and a lot of people speculate that it's because he was fighting for other things and just kind of got it as a deal, right? Like, he wasn't yearning for it. It was just kind of his consolation prize.
Well, and then the 15th, what king 15?
15 was the one who was also unscathed by it.
Well, right, because he displayed it kind of like what it was meant to be, was displayed in the statue's eye or whatever.
Right.
Third eye. What was it? So he kind of displayed it. So maybe it's like that was what it was meant to be displayed. So he didn't get cursed. This guy doesn't really want it. What does he end up doing with it? Just displaying it as well?
So he owns it for quite some time, and it actually stays in the family for years, and it's basically on display, right? This is where it starts to gain popularity, because the Hope family, were gemstone collectors, right? So they'd put these things on display, and that's where it got the name the Hope Diamond, because it was the biggest thing in their collection. Anyway, so there's lots more after the Hopes who own the diamond. Lots of stories of curses, right? But none of them too exciting to make the top 10 list. Somehow, though, it makes its way to Turkey. And this is...
What number is this?
We are at number 3 now. Sorry.
Okay, I lost track.
Yes, I should have been numbering them as we went. We're at number 3, right? So
number 3.
Number 3 is Abdul Hamid II in the early 1900s. He is a Turkish sultan. And sultans are like leaders of Turkey, okay? So he gets the diamond, and him and his wife are just absolutely plagued. So his reign as a sultan had him deal with many rebellions, failed wars, and earned him the nickname Abdul the Damned.
Oh, that's so sad.
He has it in his collection, and he decides to gift it to one of his wives. Who is...
How lucky is she?
Oh, she's so lucky that she ends up making him so angry within weeks of the gift that he just has her executed.
Oh.
Do you feel the most powerful and beautiful with the elements of the earth around you? Do you like one-of-a-kind jewelry? Do you sometimes feel like a woodland fairy? Me too. That's why I created Holly and Hemlock, a magical shop filled with handmade wooden jewelry and metaphysical tools. Come check out our enchanting wooden wares at www.hollyhemlock.com and join us in honoring the magic and beauty of nature with each unique creation. That's www.hollyhemlock.com.
How do we go from here's a 45 karat beautiful diamond, my dear, to I'm going to have you murdered?
His name is Abdul the Damned. He's not a great guy. All right. So he decides he takes the diamond back because she no longer needs it in death, apparently. And in 1909, his reign as a sultan is shortly ended afterwards as he's deposed or literally removed from office. So he, mind you, he took basically what was the start of a democratic government, rewrote all the laws to make himself basically a dictator, and the government still rises back up as like, no, none of this, you're gone. So they just get rid of him.
Yeah, so I guess I take back that's sad that they call him the Damned. I thought it was like because he was like...
Oh no, he was just...
plagued with unfortune, but he's just an ass.
He's just kind of, a terrible, terrible leader, right? So it's sold again and again, and it ends up being sold at auction at some point and being bought by Pierre Cartier. Cartier Diamonds, like the famous jeweler Cartier, actually owns the stone. He buys it a year after Abdul owned it and was removed from office. So he buys it in 1910. Once again, he kind of puts it on display, right? He never really physically owns it. It's with his collection. He doesn't wear it. But
well, it's like he doesn't personally show it off.
Right. He does sell it, though, to the McLean family. So the McLeans are American socialites. They're mining money, right? And Evelyn McLean, she's just kind of this very popular heiress who had seen the Hope Diamond on display prior to Cartier owning it and fell in love with it. Family's good friends with Cartier, and she becomes the new owner of the Hope Diamond.
Now, I'm sorry, where is the curse rumor in this? Like, has it really gone off yet? Are we like...
During the time that people owned it and before it ended up in the Smithsonian, there really wasn't a curse associated with it. But as historians started to look back on the history, they just saw this oddness of tragedy and misfortune happening to all these people. And we're only going over the top 10. There's plenty of others who had just odd circumstances. So at some point, it feels less coincidental. Evelyn is probably one of the ones who is worst affected by the curse, though. And it almost seems like the more you wish for wealth and use this as a way to show off your status, the more it affects you.
Right.
So she loved this thing. She'd wear it every day. Not only would she wear it, but she had a special collar made for her dog so that she could set the stone in the dog's collar.
Shut up. Because I was going to say, did her dog wear it? And I didn't even know that.
Oh, 100%. This dog wore the diamond. Now.
So is this Paris Hilton or what?
It basically like Paris Hilton. Spoiler alert, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. The dog was fine.
Okay. Well, because the dog didn't have a choice.
The dog didn't have a choice. But death started to just absolutely surround Evelyn. So after getting the diamond, her mother-in-law passes away within weeks. Then her first child passes away in a car accident.
Oh.
This sets Evelyn's husband into a mental breakdown. He's broken. He divorces her. He quickly marries another woman. And then within about 2 years of marrying this other woman, he dies in a mental hospital.
Oh my God.
So he just loses it completely. Evelyn's second daughter then dies at the age of 25 years old. Not many years after this, Evelyn gets pneumonia really bad. She has huge amounts of debt. And she sells the diamond to pay off the debt. She's actually one of the first who thought that the diamond was cursed. So she actually almost starts the rumor of it.
Okay.
So she dies in 1947.
Okay, but the dog lives, so I'm fine with this.
Now, in my mind, while I was reading through and doing all this research, right, everything else is kind of coincidental to me, but it's the last victim of the Hope Diamond that made me go, okay, so maybe there's something to this. So 2 years after Evelyn's death, the diamond's bought by Harry Winston in 1949. Winston, once again, kind of a selfless guy. He has a huge collection of just a lot of different antiquities and rare stuff, very valuable things. So he decides he's going to donate the diamond to the Smithsonian Museum. He owns it for 9 years. He donates it into 1958, and along comes our last victim, whose name is James Todd. James picks up the delivery for work and is to transport the Hope Diamond from Harry Winston to the Smithsonian.
Oh, no.
All he did was move this thing. But he is the last victim of the diamond's curse. Within hours of making the delivery, he's back in his truck and his leg is absolutely crushed in a truck accident in the same vehicle he delivered the stone. Couple months later, he gets into another car accident and suffers a head injury.
No. no.
And as he's recovering at home with his crushed leg and his head injury, his house burns down.
Oh my God.
And all this poor gentleman did was move the stone from Harry Winston over to the Smithsonian.
All I keep thinking about is the Little Mermaid Ursula when she's like, "You poor unfortunate soul."
Yeah, I feel like James Todd, he definitely got the short end of this.
But
right?
what did he do to deserve?
So maybe it didn't want to end up in the museum.
I thought you were gonna say that like he stole it.
No,
like on the way. Like I was expecting something like that.
Innocent
What
guy.
the heck did
He just
do?
delivers it. So he delivers it though to the Smithsonian. It's still there today. You can view it behind glass, and you know that's the story of the Curse of the Hope Diamond. So I guess, what do you think? Do you think it's coincidence, or do you think that this billion-old rock is cursed?
Can you go back to the beginning and refresh me? So
Yeah.
okay, so it was in. What was the curse again?
Okay, so it's found in,
Or,
or
I
it's
mean, not the
mined in
curse,
India. It's placed into the goddess Sita as her
Okay,
third
right.
eye.
And then it was stolen.
It's
supposedly.
stolen, and the temple priests cursed the rock.
Cursed it.
So somehow, we'll recap. So we have number 10. We've got John Baptiste Tavernier. He's the merchant who gets it. He gets sick,
Mhm.
and he gets eaten by wolves.
Which, I'm sorry, that's really bad. Like, you got ate by wolves.
It's kind of the start of the whole thing. So then we got King Louis XIV. All of his children die and don't really make it past childhood, except for one, and then he dies of gangrene.
Okay.
Then we got Nicolas Foucault, the third victim. He is the one who is banished from France and then sentenced to life in jail.
And he only wore it once, right?
Yep. So then it passes to Louis XV, who we decided was safe because he displayed it.
He displayed it.
So the next two victims, Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, who literally have their heads chopped off by the French government after the people are like, we're done with the monarchy.
Okay.
George IV, our alcoholic, blind, large
Fat
friend.
man.
He gets the gastrointestinal bleeding. He conks.
Yep.
Then we have the Hope family. So Henry Philip Hope literally catalogs the diamond and then oddly dies the same year. And then it goes to his nephew, Henry Thomas Hope, who is pretty much unscathed, right?
Yep.
Then we've got Abdul the Damned.
Yep.
Gives it to his wife. She's executed, and then he takes it back and just has a terrible brain. We've got Miss Evelyn McLean, just surrounded by death and tragedy until she herself
Paris Hilton.
goes. Yeah, Paris Hilton. And then our buddy James Todd, who...
Okay, so, yeah. Okay, yes, I definitely think it's cursed. I mean, for sure. And it does make sense. It was stolen from its home. Curse. I got that. Here's what I guess I don't understand, which obviously we never are going to. Okay, so I get the 15th, whatever. He just displayed it. Cool. Check. The nephew that inherited it didn't really want it. Got it. Check. Nothing wrong with them because they didn't really want it. So I get it. Like the people that like were using it for showing off fame, things like that. Yeah, they probably got it the worst. But I lose it with the driver because he didn't do anything.
I mean, that's one that kind of gets me too, right? And there are plenty of other owners. I mean, this is from 1600 till today, right?
But that's just the last known person that had it before it's displayed in the Smithsonian. So
the thing to me is what we hear all the stories about, they're rich and prominent people. Now, the other thing too is a lot of these stories were, 1600s to 1800s where like children not making it past,
right,
or into adulthood, right, or dying of gangrene or some of these things.
It was like a common thing.
Yeah, they weren't all that rare that they happened. So do you think maybe that the curse, Evelyn is one of the first people who said, oh my gosh, I think this diamond is cursed. Did that kind of just create an urban legend? And then we go back through history and we're looking for these stories.
Correct. That was going to be my next thing, is that like historians are obviously going through and digging this stuff up, and like you can just say that all these people had these tragedies and just say, hey, oh my God, they all owned this diamond. Huh.
Now, the biggest question is, in the 1900s, right? So we know it was owned by Cartier in 1910. But how did it get into Cal's hands and then around Rose's neck on the Titanic?
I hate you.
I mean, the heart of the ocean. And then Rose throws it in the ocean many years later. How did she get it again?
How did I end up with it hanging on my vanity?
Because I'm obsessed with the Titanic and I bought you a replica when I went to the museum.
Oh, Lord.
So honestly, I just had to throw in a Titanic reference somewhere.
You probably bought that for me because you wanted me to be cursed.
Who's to say you aren't already?
Right, well, I am. Trust. That was very interesting because I actually didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, I had heard like, ooh, it's like a curse thing before, but it's kind of interesting to go back through the history and see how many people were actually affected, or just how many prominent names that you had heard of, right? Like, I had no idea that Cartier actually owned it.
Right. I didn't know that either. I knew about Harry. I did know that. Actually, I think that's probably the only person that I ever knew had it. I didn't know anybody else even had it, or that it was 115 carats at one point. That's insane to me.
Which, so today at the 45.5 carats, it's worth up to $350 million. So in its full state, I mean, we're talking about a billion-year-old rock being worth $1 billion. It's insane.
Do you know who added all of the diamonds around it when that got added?
You know, I'm not quite sure, but I do
I
have
was just curious.
a photo of Evelyn McLean, and it's hard to tell, right? But and we'll post this on our socials, but it looks like it is set in the diamonds at that time. And knowing that she bought it from Cartier, I would assume it could have been Cartier who set the other diamonds around it.
Interesting. I don't know. I guess I'm really torn because the whole curse makes a lot of sense to me as far as like the legend behind it, like how it got cursed. I totally can vibe with that. But then it is just like the time frame of it all. Like all those things are things that just happened at that time. Like it's not anything that it was. And the driver just really throws me off. I can't get over him.
So let me ask you this. Knowing what you know about all of this,
yes,
how heavy are you going to lean to coincidental, and would you wear it?
I don't believe in coincidences. Everything happens for some sort of reason. So I'm not going to lean into a coincidence. There's something going on.
So, and we'll post a close-up of this on the socials too, but like, I honestly think it's hideous. I would never put it on.
I was just going to say, I don't think I would ever wear it for the looks of it. No.
Because it looks like somewhere between a sapphire and a diamond to me. Like, it's not one or the other. That pale blue color just makes it look cheap.
I was going to say, I don't know if I would say it's ugly. I think it is, for lack of a better descriptor, grandma-y. And it's very costume jewelry looking, which would make you think that it's fake.
It's super gaudy. But
no, I would never, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being I would wear it all the time, I would probably go like a 1. Like if I got it for a gift, I would maybe wear it once when they're around, like when we went to dinner, and I'd wear it then.
The other thing that's kind of interesting, and I found this in one of the articles, right, is like, so this now sits in the United States Smithsonian, obviously, or you have other famous Indian jewels that have just as long of history, right? That sit in like the crown jewels of England or in other still prominent families all over.
Yeah.
Is it fair for us to keep these things, or should they be returned to, I mean, these are, India was a country at that time that was so exploited that other people made so much money off of, right? Like, I almost think that these things should be returned from where they came from, like, because that's almost like a national treasure of theirs.
I think it should definitely be returned. And I'm surprised it's not cursed in the damn Smithsonian and everybody looks at it because it doesn't belong there. I definitely think it should be returned, for sure.
I'm not driving the truck, though. All right, so throwing it out to, if anyone's even listening out there, what do you think? Would you wear it? Is it cursed? Is it coincidental?
Have you gone and seen it? Were you underwhelmed?
It is. I mean, I was underwhelmed. I want to hear your stories because maybe people are blown away by it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think, especially hearing everything that you just told me, I don't think that I would be blown away by it. I think I would actually be a little bit freaked out to go look at it, to be honest.
Fair enough. I mean, I looked at it. I don't think I'm too cursed, but hey, like we said, let us know what you think. Socials will be in the link below.
Just remember you have squirrels in your walls.
I don't even want to talk about the squirrels in my walls anymore, Miss
Anyway,
Tara.
thanks for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed this oddity that we brought you. Do you have anything else to close up the shop with?
No, maybe the squirrels would like to say something while they're stashing
Squirrels in your
nuts.
pants.
Oh, my goodness. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Oddity Shop.